goodness, that's
Look and
left.
feel is a good idea.
Yes.
And you know, they don't need garages.
Pardon me?
They don't
Oh,
need
I don't
garages.
know. I mean,
I'm
that's
all in
the
on
cheapest.
favor.
Are you?
I
I
am
do wish
because
I had.
I know, and they're cheap to build. I mean, that's like,
True.
if you're gonna build it, you build that on top of it.
I
And
lived at the top of Tyrol for how many years
Mm.
without a garage? There were days I couldn't get in the car because it was frozen solid.
Yeah.
how you feeling, Scott?
That's Scott.
Mm-hmm.
And do these have full basements?
No, no
It's
basement.
built in a slab.
Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't think we can do basements on this, on the budget we'd probably like to do, but just to. Just
You
to
were
know,
manufactured. I haven't seen any of those done
yeah.
in the basement.
You surviving, Scott? I can't hear you for some reason. Let's see, ask to unmute. Let's see if that works.
Maybe he's muted.
He is.
He's sick.
There you go.
Yeah. No, it for some reason it took quite a while for the audio just to get connected. I'm not sure what was going on.
Oh,
Hi,
now
Scott.
this is,
Hey Ken, how you doing?
Thanks.
so I'm
I'm
audio.
glad you sent me that email or I've been sitting home zoomed in.
Howdy, everyone.
Let me unblur and see if it gets rid of that bright thing at the top of my head.
I think we can. Yeah, usually try to do that at bigger meetings like this. Is there a volume on this?
Oh, I think right.
Yeah, right there. You just turn it a little down. It's very loud. Thanks.
Who's on there?
Scott's on there, so.
Hey, Ruth Ann.
Oh, hi, Scott.
Hey, Scott.
You
Scott, do you have
see
a
me?
camera?
What am I
on
looking-
too? Wait, does he have a camera on?
Did you?
This is the owl. So,
Can he see all around?
uh,
If you talk, it
Yes.
looks at you.
I'll move that over. So this is such a wonderful tool. It's the libraries and they loan it to us as we
Hey,
need it.
my Jake.
My God.
Yeah,
I
so
can split.
it has,
Okay.
yeah, it's such a wonderful.
glass
Now,
in this
the
cup.
glare is a little bad and for some reason, the main camera is always a little blurry and I haven't figured out how to.
Is it a lot to take
Yeah,
the
if
ceiling
you
down?
would just that one should be fine.
No.
Oh,
What?
oh, poor Ken had a fire. Well, CO, smoke alarm.
It was
go off.
nothing. The water, the
It
leak
tripped the water.
dripped
tripped-
into the smoke alarm, shorted it
Oh,
off
no.
of the- off
Yeah.
of the alarm, the
Yeah.
alarm.
Yes, the alarm was not going off for what it is usually designed
Right.
for, because the water was short.
Can't get it.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna.
Yes, I was kind of awake and then
Watch the.
I
it's
heard the
under my
tone.
coat there, too, so-
But sometimes he goes out and I never hear where it is.
Yeah.
But then you weren't, then he got home.
And it went off again.
Oh, it was back to you again.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have a Pope alarm. but
Yep,
they're very,
Yeah,
they're
so
very
she should be
frustrating.
on here. Well,
Really
just,
are
just be.
And I said to the woman, don't call the
Yes.
police to say. the
And she
fire
responded
department-
back, no, we're not gonna use that.
You need my computer.
That's
on.
why he came
No,
back.
I'll send you the recording on this too.
So,
Better to be safe than sorry. That's.
I know.
What is with there is a,
How are you? I don't know. Are we official? I didn't
Yes,
go to the select
we
board
just
meeting.
had the select board meeting and for some reason there is a.
Hi, Bella.
There's like something fuzzy on my camera. I don't know. Oh, it's this camera, actually.
Like, should I walk
Yeah.
by?
I have an eyeglass cleaner, but I don't know if that's it or not. It's.
Does that feel good?
If you-
Yeah, right.
the genie comes out,
I know, right?
It's pretty.
That's
clean.
No, I don't know what's wrong with it. It has like a, it has a
Like
shadow in
that.
front of me.
I think it's just probably glare, from the windows, kind of like behind me.
Over this way, moving over this way a little bit, but hi Bella, I'm Barb Campbell. Nice to have you join us.
Hi, nice to meet you.
We are recording this meeting just so everyone knows, and I haven't called it to order because I'm hoping a few other folks are going to walk in the door, but there's a sign-in sheet, agendas, and copies from last minute. Hi Nancy, come on up.
Hi, Nancy.
yeah.
Hi, Bella. I can't see you, but I imagine that the camera, same thing over here.
Yes.
Should be in here.
Here, I got agendas too.
Yes, Bella is right here, and she can see you
You got
probably.
you got an
so-
agenda?
I don't.
Yeah.
Is this?
Make me feel important, if I remember.
It's just one
Yeah,
page.
there you go. See.
Oh.
Yes, come to the table, everyone.
We're now invited to the table.
Yes. So we had this.
Well, I
select-
have to ask, so I'm gonna sit back.
Okay.
Okay, but we did nominate all of you to be on the committee. So you two are Emily and Nick, not Bernie. I don't know where I got Nick from, but
Bernie,
anyway, Nick.
Bernie.
I'm gonna call you Nick from now on, just, no, I'm kidding. Bernie,
My closest friends call me Nick.
there you go. I'm gonna go
Oh,
with Bernie.
Really?
No.
No,
Bernie.
he was just making me feel good, but
Wait, are
you
Bernie
two-
or Nick?
I'm Bernie.
Bernie. And so you guys are going to be permanent members or, full members, and then we have 4 alternates. We can have up to 5. So alternate, Nancy, you're an alternate, and then Meredith, who could not make it tonight. She's overseas somewhere. And who am I
Oh, yeah.
missing?
They're in Norway.
Yes, I know.
We should probably explain to Bella that we have a number of new appointments.
Yes.
That all occurred this afternoon, so that's why there's a little bit of confusion.
confusion. Yes, we just had our town meeting and increased the number of folks on our committee, which is wonderful. And it's also wonderful to be able to increase them and fill them at the same time. So,
That's
But who-
awesome.
oh,
You know, she
Je-
can have some-
what's
Bethany?
Bethany Taylor. So,
Tiffany's an alternate.
yes, and I'm not sure if she was going to make it tonight or not.
She's in Iceland. I'm very relieved
Oh.
to get an alternate.
Well, thank you for jumping in. So,
Bethany.
who, are you gonna run the meeting tonight?
No, go-
Or
You're sitting in front of the camera, so go right ahead.
I can go wherever. Yeah.
Prior to starting things, but just to clarify. We're all here, Ruth and Bernie, Emily are full-time? Or,
Nope, Bernie, Emily are full-time because then it's Jake, Ken, Scott, Bernie, Emily are the 5 full-time members. And then Bethany, Ruth Ann,
Nancy?
Nancy, and Meredith.
And Meredith.
Yes,
Right.
and we have 1 open seat for an alternate. And just wanted to say thank you very much to Jonathan Laguerre for serving on the first year. He did have to resign for some personal reasons, but he said as soon as he can jump back in and come to the meetings and stuff, he would love to stay involved. And so we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So. All right, so I sort of called the meeting to order. We went over a lot of things, but I will officially call the meeting to order at 6:03. Welcome, everyone, and Emily, Nancy, Bernie, Ruth Ann, Jake, Ken, Barb, and then we have Scott on the Zoom call, and we have Bella Romero from 6:03 forward. So thank you for joining us. Real quickly, did you all get to review the minutes from the last meeting? And I'm assuming it would just be the 3 of us and Scott since we were the ones here. Any,
I did make a motion to accept the minutes.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. So the number 6 on our agenda. We jumped right past 4 and 5 because they're not there. So tomorrow meaning Ken, me, and not Scott because you're not feeling well. We're going to meet with Caitlin Quint at the Bank of New Hampshire. She has been active with us in trying to just explore some financing ideas. So last meeting, we announced that we had property available that was going to be offered to us for the purpose of housing. We haven't figured out how to structure that, if we can take it on as a town, or if we have to form some kind of an other alternate structure like a nonprofit or whatever. So that is all to be determined. But in the meantime, we want to jump in with some local banks and try to find out how we can finance a project like this. So Ken, do you want to talk about what we're planning on for our meeting?
Well, before I talk about the meeting with Bank of New Hampshire, I will tell you that I'll let him get away with, because we're having a merger. Northway, and it's been not really responsive, even though I met with a couple of people there, they're just not responsive. And the same can be said of Union. That's still the situation. So based on how we do tomorrow, I'll either sit with those three or I'll go to the next bank. I mean, I'm not shy about going to banks. I
No.
promise you. The meeting tomorrow with Caitlin and Bambi Lane, by the way.
Bambi
Do you
Lane?
know her?
No,
She is a commercial loan officer must be from Concord with her loan officer.
I believe.
And we had a meeting scheduled 10 days ago, but she was unable to make it, so it's been rescheduled. We have it tomorrow. I need these copies, but I'll gladly pass them around to take a look at what it is. Scott, I haven't gotten this to you yet, but I'll send it to you electronically.
Okay.
You can send it to me right now.
And I may be able to make that meeting tomorrow. I'm actually planning on going to work tomorrow morning, so.
Okay.
Don't breathe on me. I'm leaving on vacation on Tuesday.
I'll bring a mask.
You have to wear a bag on your head.
That's right.
Little eye holes. But our story is the same. We are going to explain the state of the union in Jackson with respect to housing. And unlike the large cities in the state, who like to use the term affordable housing, workforce housing, that really doesn't play in Jackson. And we're using the term family housing or community housing.
I like
Specifically because the next step is what the town evolved. The anchors of the town are really the school and the church. Let's just focus on the school. And Emily, I liked your letter at the school meeting. But the school enrollment is just like this. It's just going straight down. And I believe it's at 37 now or something like that.
20, less than 30.
Now it's less than 20. Our cost per student is approaching 50 grand. And that's not viable.
No,
I'm a person, as I will tell you all, who up until a year or so ago, before we started this commission, I was in favor of closing the school and sending the kids elsewhere, strictly for financial reasons. It just doesn't make sense. But when you think about it, if you take the school out of Jackson, there's no anchor, and we're going to end up with nothing but short-term rentals and hotels. That'll be the whole town, and a few old people like me that are, waiting for the bucks. So I believe we have to encourage younger people to come to the town. And if you talk to anybody who works in this town, they'll say, "Oh, I'd love to live in Jackson." Who can afford a place in Jackson? They're right. Get a piece of land. It's too expensive. You want to buy a house that the STRs haven't bought up yet, that they're astronomical price. So this is how the Jackson Housing Commission became to be. And after a lot of work, we got here. By the way, I'm literally giving the presentation tomorrow, right?
that's
So
good.
this is great
It's a
practice.
practice, yeah.
But we need partners. We need people who have land, unused houses, accessory dwellings, you name it. We need people like that who want to donate them, give them, conservation people, whatever, to this commission, so we can build some kind of living facility, preferably single family dwellings, 2-bedroom homes that would attract a young family. Now you say, well, they still won't be able to afford it. Well, we got the land. Once you have the land, that's a big chunk. An acre of land in Jackson is a huge thing. So when I first went into these banks, I said to them, presented them the same story. And I said, and this is what we want from you. We want a mortgage. Now, by the way, Bank of New Hampshire is not a retail bank. They're a commercial bank, a commercial lender. And one of their missions for 2025 is to address and help solve some of the affordable housing crises across the state. So I showed up with a retail banking application, and actually it opened up Caitlin's eyes, and she liked what we were doing. And she and the commercial people are trying to figure out a mechanism whereby they can fund this thing. But when I say funded, we want these owners, individual homeowners, to get in this thing with nothing down. And why should they have to put anything down? They got a piece of land that that's
Mhm.
collateral, that's plenty of collateral. And one of these banks I went to said to me, well, what if they default on the loan? I said, okay, so we build them a $300,000 house on a piece of land. How long do you think it would take to sell that in the town of Jackson under
Mhm.
today's circumstances? Not long. So there's, the thing with a bank is there's zero risk. I mean, they can, one of them asked me, what's in it for me? What's in it for us? I said, hey, you can be known as the bank that helped Jackson solve its problems.
Mhm.
Okay, somebody that really did something for the community. It's a bloodsucker of the community. So I'm a little earthy, sorry. But
He's not really sorry either.
no, did you hear me boo when you got elected?
Thanks for that,
That
Ken.
was me. So I've been talking around on a preliminary basis. I've not talked to contractors because I wouldn't even know where to start. Although I have a couple in mind. But I have spoken to a couple. I had an electrician in my house, Field Electric from
Mhm.
Freiburg. And I said to Seth, I called up Seth, the owner, and I said, hey, how would you like to be a hero? And he said, I'd love to be a hero. Good. Well, I want you to wire these houses for us. And I want you to do it at your cost. I said, well, they could cost 30 to 50,000. I said, one for us, it's not gonna cost 30. So he was a little
Hi, Julie.
astounded by the conversation because it came out of nowhere. But I
Mhm.
think he said, I was very clear about this. I said, if you're not interested, tell me right now, because I don't want to waste your time. And he said, no, I am interested and I could do something. So it's a start, right? Now we need to do the same thing with a plumber, with site work people,
Mhm.
and a builder.
Mhm.
Now, I also just happened to see this.
Noticed.
you
I
doing?
didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I saw. I laughed.
People in town who's an electrician,
Mhm.
and he had help getting here,
Well, he's one I would talk to it. And
Oh, yeah.
I would also talk to Mark.
getting that help.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would also talk to Mark Sheen. I mean, they may be
Yeah,
able to collaborate on that.
Yep.
These are people I know well.
I've got a builder who might be interested,
Okay.
so, but anyways, yeah.
Now, originally, we were talking about individual homeowners, couples, young couples with mortgages. Now I'm starting to think maybe we have to do exactly that. Maybe we have to partner up with a builder, fund the building, and then let the money somehow flow through.
Mhm.
Okay. And I think that can be done.
And we can get into it a bit more later in the meeting, but my discussion with the attorney at the New Hampshire Municipal Association, you know, there's the language is very ambiguous. We can go over it, but you know, he felt really the intent of, you know, a housing commission under the RSA that were established is to pass any land on to a developer or a nonprofit, as opposed to managing the development, managing the land ourselves.
I got your email today and I went back and looked at it again after having looked at it before, and I'm not sure what it says, to be honest with you. It's very unclear, but I think that is the gist of it, is that we would have to give the land.
I don't know that we have to. We can talk about it later. I don't want to hold up Bella too long.
Yeah.
And I only have one other point.
Yeah.
And
well, I think this is a great introduction for Bella as to what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
The last point is we had been talking all along about manufactured type homes. And there's nothing wrong with manufactured type homes. They're they look great today. But in the Sun last week was this ad for Ridgeline, the development up by the high school.
Mhm.
I don't know if you all looked at it, but I looked at it a little more closely. And those houses are 2 bedrooms with a 2-car garage. The houses themselves are about just a little under 1,200 square feet. The garage is 336. If we could build these houses for $200 a foot
Mhm.
and kick in discounted and
Okay.
shared septic,
Mhm.
shared wells, the discounted electric and the discounted plumbing, it comes in at, by my calculation, at 304,000. Bingo. That's just the number we use because looking for $1.5 million in the bank.
Yeah.
So that's as far as I got.
And I've been trying to get in touch with Sean Bergeron who was working, with that development, and he keeps promising to get back to me and hasn't had
Mhm.
time yet.
So I think that's a great start to what we're gonna be talking about tomorrow, but Bella, like Scott said, I want to make sure that you get a chance to hop in here. So would you want to give us a little background on your position and your business?
Yeah. I'm so happy to be here and glad that I could connect with Jake so I could connect with all of you. It's really exciting to hear about the stuff that y'all are trying to do. It's really similar to the work that we're trying to do across the state of New Hampshire as an organization. But yeah, my name is Isabella Romero. I am an advocacy and engagement organizer with 603 Forward and the Forward Foundation. And 603 Forward is a C4 organization, whereas the Forward Foundation is a C3. So I try to distinguish those two right off the bat, just so that you guys can understand what boxes those organizations fit into. They're obviously co-founded by the same people, and I work for both organizations, but the C3 basically does education and resources based programming. For example, right now we're doing a lot of like governance programming and like poll worker kind of recruitment and education. Whereas the C4 organization, 603 Forward, can do independent expenditure work because our main mission is to help young people get elected to state and local offices. So we just had town meeting day, and we had, I believe, 45 or more young leaders elected to town offices, which is very exciting. So it's all the way from like zoning and planning boards and school boards all the way up to state senators. We work very closely with Rebecca Perkins Cuoca, who is personally my state senator down on the Seacoast. But yeah, so that's a little bit about the two organizations and how they work together but are also separate. But yeah, so what I do on our advocacy team is mostly what I'm doing right now. I do one-on-ones with different advocates like Jake, for example, and try to help people essentially find ways to best advocate for the things that they think will help New Hampshire thrive and for the young people in New Hampshire to thrive. As you guys have already mentioned, New Hampshire is aging rapidly, and we need young people to want to stay here and work here and live here. And so we're trying to make it essentially more attractive for young people to live here and want to stay here. A little bit of backstory on my story. I grew up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, so on the seacoast, which is very different, but I do see a lot of similarities to the issues that y'all have with short-term rentals. I know that Portsmouth has had a lot of issues with that. Same with Hampton and pretty much the whole seacoast of New Hampshire. But yeah, so I moved away for college for 4 years, stayed in Nashville, Tennessee for like a fifth year essentially after college. And I wanted to move back really badly because the political landscape was just something that I wasn't exactly used to. There was just a lot going on politically to the extent that I didn't feel super safe living in Nashville, Tennessee anymore, and wanted to move home, but knew that I couldn't afford to. So I lived with my mom for 6 months, which I am forever thankful to my mother for letting me do that. But I also am increasingly aware that that is not the case for everyone, and they don't have family members who can support them. And everyone essentially deserves to be able to live where they want to live and be able to afford that. So yeah, I lived with my mom for 6 months and then got this job last June as an organizer, and that's what I've been doing for almost a year now. So I was able to get an apartment and stuff, which was awesome. But again, that's really not the case for everyone. I hear housing stories all the time about how people ended up in really different situations because of the lack of affordability in New Hampshire. 603 Forward works a lot with housing affordability as well as voting rights. So my superior, Matt Mushian, who also works on the advocacy and engagement team, does a lot of work on the state legislature, whereas I do a lot more of the kind of like on the ground organizing. So showing up to these meetings. I have a planning board meeting later this week that I'm going to in Portsmouth. So I get to attend a lot of these meetings. I've never been a guest at a meeting though before, so this is very exciting for me. And yeah, so I do a lot of work in Manchester specifically right now because they're doing a rezoning project. So they're updating their zoning ordinance. It's kind of a part of their master plan. Portsmouth just released their 2025 master plan that they've been working on for a while. I believe that Seabrook is about to relook at their zoning ordinance. And as y'all in Jackson are kind of looking at what you can do to increase housing affordability, that is essentially what I'm doing in as many cities and towns that we can, is to learn about what our common needs are and what we can all do at the local and state level to help increase affordability. And yeah, I think that I don't know if y'all have any questions for me. But yeah,
Do you,
that's
do you have, do you have an example of something that you've done that would fit into what we've described as like, we need financing, but we're working on that, but we certainly need legal advice on how to structure these deals, whether it be from the beginning or with the homeowners towards the end. So how is that something that you have been able to impact a community?
Yeah, so I am not a lawyer, obviously. But we do have like a lot of connections with lawyers, and we are partner organizations with the ACLU of New Hampshire. And so and I know a lot of people in Manchester who do tenants' rights and stuff like that. So I will definitely forward along any resources that I may have for that. Trying to think of specifically an example. I mean, funding wise, in Manchester, this whole project that we've been helping to cultivate, I guess like community engagement around, because they did like whole summer's worth of ward meetings leading up to redrafting. And we really helped get like a lot more people and a lot like of different types of people to those meetings so that it wasn't just residential homeowners and people over the age of like 65. And also when I say like young working age people, I mean like 18 to I believe 50 is but it keeps increasing the age because of the amount of people who have to continue working. And but yeah, so in Manchester, we did a lot of community work of getting people out to advocate for flexibility in the way that we define like zoning districts and things like that. And what that ultimately resulted in, while that process is still ongoing, Manchester did get a housing champion designation, which allows them to apply for, it's part of the New Hampshire Housing Champion program, which is definitely worth looking into.
I have looked into it, and Jackson really wouldn't qualify.
Okay, yeah.
I spoke with them directly about it. And it really, I can't remember the terms of it that would disqualify us, but it really was not something that Jackson fits.
Yeah,
They-
that's
they
a
were
bummer.
allocated zero money this year's budget,
Oh, geez.
zero.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just gonna say the budget may be booting the housing champion designation. But what it was created to do was essentially allow the cities and towns that are designated to have access to more funds for increasing housing and housing affordability, because increasing the housing supply is really the way that will drive down prices for renters and homeowners. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. I know that y'all don't qualify
Yeah.
for it, so I apologize.
No, not your fault. Anyone else have some questions?
Do those lawyers and organizations you work with do pro bono work?
I know that the ACLU definitely does. They do a lot of work at the State House as well. But yeah, I would assume that they do, yeah, especially because y'all are like so new, from what I've gathered from Jake. Yeah.
Have a contact with you.
Sorry?
You wouldn't happen to have a contact person there.
At the ACLU, I definitely do. I can email that to y'all.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, any design or construction resources too. I don't know if it would be. We've reached out. There's a developer. It's called GSD Studios. They're in Exeter area, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're also part of Harmony Homes, which is an assisted living. I think they have 2 or 3 locations. But it's a husband and wife. The husband's a contractor as well, and the wife is an architect as well. And so they're able to do some, they start out doing housing for their own staff, and that worked well enough that they expanded to just, sort of community based, housing. But I've not yet been able to get in contact with them. So I've tried.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good. I mean, we've been really trying to increase our, as an organization, our connections with developers. Because even though I guess developers aren't everyone's like favorite types of people to make connections with, they are really important to increasing the housing supply, and it's really the only way that we're going to accomplish that. So that's something that we as an organization have definitely been trying to do as well. Also, I don't want y'all to think that I'm like an expert on anything by any means. Our organization really just tries to be a one-stop shop for any resources or information. And I can point y'all to other people who are probably experts like lawyers and things like that. That will be, yeah.
Great.
Bill, I have a question. I'm not entirely sure how to phrase it, but we've been talking a lot about like what we're doing locally with developers pro bono wise and like local zoning laws, and you're working a lot at the state level, and it sounds like your supervisor does a lot of like legislative work or is working. Is there anything that you would recommend that we kind of keep an eye on at a state level or focus more on at a state level? We have an increased amount of resources now as a housing commission, so a few of us are working locally, visiting banks and stuff, but if other sets of us were to like branch off and work with the state, do you have any recommendations of what we could do or like bills to keep an eye out for or advocate for?
Yes, yeah. So, I would say that, and I can send in an email, if y'all aren't able to write all this down, but I do have our list of bills that we've been tracking. We have the, just had it and then lost it. Here it is. HB 577, which is relative to modifying the definition of ADUs. That's something that we've been in support of. I believe that it expands the definition to include like accessory dwelling units by right, to include detached units as well as attached, and adds definitions related to ADUs and increases the maximum square footage, because previously I think the maximum square footage was pretty small for an ADU. So yeah, that has been something that we're following.
Is there one that basically forces municipalities to accept mobile homes in the more traditional sort of concept? I thought I saw one. So, for example, Jackson has an ordinance that essentially does not allow mobile home parks. And I wasn't sure if this was to allow any number of mobile homes on a property, or just to allow even just one. But
That is a really good question.
I'm
But
trying to find the reference to it that I saw. Hang on.
yeah, I wouldn't know of like the specific bill number for something like that. But yeah, that would definitely be something helpful to keep track of. Yeah, all of these are also just at different stages in the process, since we haven't yet reached crossover day. But yeah, HB 60, which is relative to the termination of tenancy at the expiration of the tenancy or lease term. Obviously, we are in opposition to that bill. HB 572, which establishes the Partners in Housing program, which is a low interest loan and grant program under the Housing Champions Fund to assist municipalities, counties, and developers to build workforce housing. We've been monitoring that bill. There's no like active update in our document. So I don't know exactly where that's at, but just with everything that I've seen about the Housing Champions programs, I would definitely just keep HB 572 on your radar just to see if that's gotten through the House or if it died on committee. Normally that's something that if it died in committee, that my supervisor would have like alerted to in our document, but it doesn't say that it was, so I'm assuming that it's still out there in the ether. And then I'm trying to find the ones that will be most relevant to the work that y'all are doing. There's HB 60. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, is there any discussion? This has come up, a couple of times. Is there any discussion towards the state allowing municipalities to offer tax incentives for full-time residences? It's not necessarily an affordable housing direction, but by giving homeowners an incentive to full-time rent their home as opposed to short-term rent, it does certainly help with the housing the housing inventory or shortage.
Right. Yeah, HB 65 like directs landlords to offer tenants the option of reporting rental payments to consumer reporting agencies. So that's kind of like an incentivization of long-term renting for sure. There are bills that are trying to raise the funds for affordable housing, like House Bill 530. There's HB 623, which is relative to I also dropped in the chat. Y'all can view this our bill tracker if that will be easier. But yeah, because I don't want to just scream a bunch of House bill numbers at y'all. But yeah, it's relative to prohibiting corporations from purchasing single family homes for a certain amount of time, which would probably be something that y'all would want to monitor that bill. And just Allie Murray, who's like a young state representative from Manchester, is kind of heading up that bill.
Bill, that one,
63?
63, thanks.
Yeah, 623. And then HB 631-FN will permit residential building in commercial zoning by right. So we're kind of calling that the Homes Near Jobs bill, which will essentially incentivize mixed use zoning, so people can work close to where they live and vice versa. So that's a bill that we've been really supportive of as well. That has also made it through the House. And then relative to establishing a study commission to examine the New Hampshire Zoning Enabling Act, that's 399. Trying to look for specific ones. I know that there's a parking reduction requirement bill as well that we've been in support of that just made it through the House with an amendment. So that would eliminate minimum parking requirements for residential units essentially, or developments. And the amendment was I believe one parking spot per unit, rather than some municipalities have like 2.5 or 3 per unit or per bedroom. So that kind of distinguishment of like eliminating as many barriers to building housing as possible is kind of what we're supporting as well.
So the House bill that I mentioned regarding mobile homes is 685.
Okay, yeah,
And the pertinent language in it is that it requires municipalities to allow homes built on a permanent chassis. And our zoning actually excludes specifically homes built on a permanent chassis. And so that, for what it's worth, I don't know what the status of it is, but that's the one.
yes, that is on our list of bills that we monitor, but there are no updates in here as to kind of like where it's gone. So I don't know if it's still in committee or not.
Bill, I found the website 6034.org/25 leg session, legislative session, has some really good organization on that. So attribute that to the House Commission. Thanks for sharing about all this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right, does anyone have any other questions for Bella?
I guess I also just want to bring up the resources you shared about how to like market talking about housing, or how to talk about housing to the community. I found those really helpful, and we passed them around, and I'll pass them around to you all as well, because I don't think I passed them around, but we'll definitely lean on those as we start planning the event later this year.
Right.
So thanks for sharing those too.
Yeah, of course. I've found those resources to be really helpful, even just in my work in Manchester. We're putting up a billboard in Manchester, and that has been greatly helpful in trying to find language that is going to work best for the large majority of people and seem appealing to the most amount of people. And Welcoming Neighbors Network is a great resource as well. As well as I know Strong Towns is another organization that does some like housing work as well. So those kinds of organizations can offer like funding and things like that through grants. So that's definitely something to look into.
Did you say those again, Bella?
Yes, it's Strong Towns and then Welcoming Neighbors Network.
Awesome, thank you.
I've got one question for you, Bella. So I'm brand new to this committee, but was involved in some housing things that we did here in town. Well, it was right before COVID, I guess, but I did just receive an opportunity through the New Hampshire Municipal Association to share input on municipal housing development. And this is a poll that I'm going to share with everybody. And yeah, are you familiar with this effort that they're doing and where this is going? And do you work with the New Hampshire Municipal Association resources that they might have?
I believe so. Yeah, we work with them and then the Fiscal Policy Institute. There's another one I'm blanking on, but yes.
Okay, because I was thinking the New Hampshire Municipal Association, they might have some good resources for, specific with the housing questions. I don't know, Barb, does that, I'm sure
Yeah,
you got that
I
whole
did.
thing too.
Yeah.
Have you done it?
No.
Haven't- Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if we can even put it in e-news, but
I know, we'll look and see. Want to get inundated with some survey responses?
well, but it goes to somebody else. That's
Yeah.
like a traffic survey
Right.
thing. It goes to somebody else and then they can tell us.
Put it in e-news and it's not allowed, will it? That the punishment?
No, I mean, it says like, go for it. They'll be
Yeah.
like, wow, the County
Jackson got
Jackson is
really-
sending us a lot of input. So
Is it just a link that people would go to fill out the survey?
yeah, I'll share it with everybody
Yeah.
here and then I'll do it
Yeah.
and see kind of what
See
the
what it
deal is.
applies
But they said please feel forward to forward this to others in your municipality. So I didn't know if you maybe knew more about
Got
this
the
effort.
voters checklist, sent it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Need to get
I-
9.
I actually wonder, can you tell me again what the name that it was sent to you under?
well, it's let's see, New Hampshire Municipal Association Government Affairs. That was the email that it came to me.
Okay.
And I'm the emergency management director in town, so I kind of get some of this stuff through them for other reasons. Barb is a select board chair, so that's, you kind of land on these things and
Yeah.
and I thought,
Yeah, yeah, I only ask because I know that we've been working with Welcoming Neighbors Network. We just received our polling data because we did a housing poll.
I was thinking there's got to be other housing polls
Yeah.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that St. Anselm does them. St. Anselm's College for Ethics in Society. They do a housing analysis and a housing atlas.
They did a whole like zoning and like every town's zoning
Yeah.
thing that's pretty amazing actually.
Huh. Okay. So this could be tied in with all number
This
of
is
things.
3 questions.
Yeah, that's what I'm just looking
Yeah, I
at
know.
now. It's like, oh, actually,
Yeah, it's not that robust.
it's not super robust.
What's the question?
The questions of approximately how many housing units have been approved in your municipality since January 1, 2023? How many housing units are currently pending approval in your municipality? And do you have any additional comments about housing expansion in your municipality? Maximum words 3. No, I'm kidding. Right.
Very big homes, very big. So that's
Keep 'em.
just
Yeah, so
like
that's
going to the
all it
town
is.
report on
Yeah.
the buildings. So
Yes. That's,
That's really neat thought.
yeah, how
that's
about
nothing.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
that's definitely not from us.
This doesn't need to be sent everywhere.
No,
because
does not.
yeah, definitely not. So, okay, that's it.
Oh,
Cool.
And the thing I mentioned is the New Hampshire zoning atlas. And as a way of searching for zoning that towns are using, for one sort or another, like for housing. I think it's good for that. It's needs to be taken with a bit of a grain of salt. When I checked it for Jackson, there are a few things that were not exactly correct, but I think they're making an effort to improve it and make it more accurate as it went along.
Definitely, yeah.
So one of my favorite sayings, and my kids will tell you, and my husband will tell you this too, is use your resources. So I think one of the best things was we could have written down all the numbers and things, but I think making sure that we have contact with you if we have questions or resources that we can share with you and vice versa. So if we think you might have access to something, then we'll be in touch through either Jake or Scott or something. And as we make progress through these, if we can help your infrastructure by our experience, then we'll be happy to do that. Hopefully we'll be successful and be able to model it somewhere else. That's our goal.
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah. And if I come across any like funding or development opportunities or anything like that, I will definitely send them y'all's way. Again, yeah, we just really want to be a resource to different towns and cities trying to increase their housing supplies and the housing affordability. So
Great. Well, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Bella.
Yeah,
Thank you, Bella.
yeah.
You're welcome to hang on the rest of our meeting here if you want, or sign off, whatever you feel like doing. So,
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. I have to scoot, unfortunately, but thank you again so much.
pleasure.
it was
Thanks.
great
I'm
meeting you.
sure we'll be chatting with you again.
Yes. Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. Perfect. Good. That's lots of numbers, like you said, and I'm a numbers person, but that was overwhelming with all the HBs. So we'll be them up later, but I feel like there were a couple that I think are going to be worth keeping an eye on and
Yeah.
looking into.
Bart, if you wouldn't mind, whenever you get a chance to send me the link that she posted. in chat,
Yep,
sure
I'm just saving it up there so I can
some
make sure.
organized.
Yes.
Yeah, their website does have like the 3 housing bills to focus on. So like.
Okay.
Oh, it
incredible-
does. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
By the way,
That's good.
we capture, we have all their email addresses.
I do, and I will send out, I thought of that today because I want to make sure everyone sets up their group email for whatever to have all of the members now. So I will get that to you
Can you
guys.
create like a Google group or something that's not just like lost email threads. I don't want to do like Slack to
You
make
know,
people like download.
No,
apps.
and I mean, everybody has their own way to do it. You
Right.
could do that if you want, but I just,
With this,
What do you mean?
what?
I don't need Google.
Yes.
No.
Well, I guess that makes sense, yeah.
But I usually set up my own Google groups or whatever groups in my different emails, because I have Gmail and Outlook and all kinds of crap. So if you want to try that,
Well, I personally, I
work.
get lost in email threads, but I know that if I
Yeah.
bring other people to other apps, then it's just like somebody else is getting lost in some other app. So
exactly.
if we can all agree on one thing.
I will send out all the emails, and if anyone has a great tool to use, then we'll share that. But I'll make sure everybody has their email, everyone else's email
I
address.
just copy paste from the last email I got.
Exactly, that's right. So the next thing on here too was discuss possible development options with the local landowner, and I think we're gonna skip over that for today. Because I think based on time, I'm one of those people who likes to keep my meetings.
Yeah, but I have one thing on it. Let's
Okay.
let's not lose sight of the fact that Emily has a contact on that.
The builder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if I should divulge the name.
You have to.
Don't.
But if it's something that to just say, hey, I mean,
Yeah,
they could come in and hear a little bit more about it if it's something that would be of interest to them.
Yep.
And see. I guess one thing that even backing it up more though, it sounds like there is a question about who is going to own this land?
that's my biggest thing, what I have towards the top of is how to structure the financing, not just for today, but for 3 to 5 years when they want to sell and move into a bigger home and sell it to another person that can afford that home. So that's a whole structure that we
Yeah,
have to,
well, yeah.
I'm way ahead, the horse is way ahead of the cart here because
Yeah.
we don't even have financing, but that's one thing. But because that also ties into the legal and logistics of how is this structured? How does a lawyer envision this being structured from the property right now to the financing to build to the transfer to the new owner.
Yeah.
And that part, how do we even target and market it to a specific group? Like the Ridgeline targets to seniors, how do we do that? So,
Well, I wouldn't want to wait a whole month till our next meeting, but Peter McMillan will be back in town Thursday,
oh, cool,
and we could do a Zoom with him.
yeah,
Is that a lawyer?
he's,
Yeah,
yes,
he's
a
next door.
neighbor and
He's new
he,
in town, but he's
yeah.
on the zoning.
That's who was being
He's-
referred to in
Yeah,
here.
he's a real estate lawyer. He's not,
There we go.
the one caveat, he's not
Not
licensed in New
licensed.
Hampshire.
But he's pretty
But he's
smart
pretty
guy.
sharp, exactly.
He's got a resume about a mile long with,
Well,
no.
it sounds like he's got more than all, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in particular, in particular, what I was hearing from the attorney at the New Hampshire Municipal Association in regards to, his belief that the land really should be passed on to some other entity,
That's fine.
whether it's a developer or a nonprofit.
Right,
Even though if you read the language of, the RSA that we're organized under, we just find it.
yeah,
But it says, basically that we have the right to manage the property that's given to us or that we acquire. But the attorney I talked to said that he didn't believe we had the right to establish rates or restrictions. I'm not sure how you could do one without the other.
Mm. That's where I don't want to jump into doing one thing, and I don't think we're the type to jump, but I don't want to move in one direction and then be, handcuffed not to go to the next step easily.
Yeah.
So I want the path to be
So-
pretty clear.
Sounds like that guy could be a good resource then on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the two key pieces, excuse me one second, the two key pieces in going forward from here is the financing and the legal aspect of it, okay? And I think, I'm just very hopeful that we can get a positive reaction tomorrow, because then we have something to talk to a lawyer about,
Right.
we can visualize this thing and figure out what the parameters are for getting it done. We're not even prepared to go to a builder.
No.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
I just don't want to lose sight of it.
Yeah, well, and this builder might not be ready
Except
to
that
do it.
builders can be 2 years booked out too, so.
Yeah.
Timing is important for so many things, but like you, I want to know we have some kind of financing so we can say, man, if we can find the rest of these hard services, we can go to town on it.
Yeah, I mean, we knew at the beginning that as soon as we got land donated or something, this thing was going.
Yeah.
If the properties or for the properties that would be for sale, is it more a question of setting up financing between the future owner, as opposed to us being involved in, or someone else being in the middle?
Right.
And
In that case, we'd have to find a retail.
well, and I think, as I mentioned before, there may be people in town that are willing to do, very low interest, no down payment type loans. As I said, people that would like to quote unquote, do something for housing in town, but don't really feel they have the ability to donate money or, but are willing to, sort of put money on hold, not make anything on their money, to help out. My wife and I have done that on a couple occasions up your way, Emily.
Yeah, 8-9. We're doing that right now. for some folks.
And, we would have the ability to do a couple more at least.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there are others in town that would, help out in that way. If we can get financial institutions to take, to do that kind of lending, all the better. But I think
Right.
there is, some alternative sources for that. And then
Yeah.
a question you might ask the contractor that you have spoken with, Emily, is doing a sort of local Habitat for Humanity type effort at all a reasonable possibility? In other words, could there be a Jackson, a group of Jackson people that contribute by sweat equity, basically,
Yeah, like a barn raising.
like a barn raising, exactly.
talk about a building community, like,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what we talked about
Yeah.
getting,
yeah,
you know, the donated resources.
right, right.
And then we get them all to sign up for the fire department.
Exactly.
yeah, pretty
See?
much, and children at the school.
No, I think that's where we have to focus some of our outreach event too, is every resource that we can get available to learn about this. We're gonna get the trifolds out, which will be great for drawing that interest, but how can we get more volunteers to say, we may need hands-on, you know, or if you're a law student or an attorney or whatever, we need pro bono help that's gonna build your resume, whatever we can do to attract people to help us out, you know.
Key term, pro bono.
Yeah.
And pro bono.
It's huge, yep.
Sorry,
So,
Can we go back to what we were just talking about like the intermediary ownership? I don't understand that process just because I'm like,
Well,
about owning house and stuff.
if you think about a development.
Yeah.
Like, would be a commercially developed development, it's redundancy, but so Ridgeline is probably being financed as it's being built. But then you're gonna buy one of those units, you're gonna go to a local bank that does residential loans and finance it. So you're buying it from the owner of the bigger piece. So the interim financer would be the big company. Am I getting that right? That's
Yeah, you got
financing
that
the-
right. The trouble with that is you lose the advantage of having the land when you go to get a retail mortgage.
Yep.
That's a huge advantage.
Huge.
You give that up, if we give that.
Well,
up-
and it's really the land. You're trying to leverage the interest of the contractor so that, you know, they make something out of it, I think. But it's still a, you know, just the building cost, you know, sort of push the affordability limit. And so when you start adding in that extra, you know, profit center, even if it's a marginal one, it, you know, starts to get difficult.
I'm still not giving up on contacting some of these other banks. One of the gentlemen on the board with me, another board with me is a lender at Camden now, so I'll talk with him and see, you know, if the dust settles, if he's interested, because he works with both commercial and residential. And the same with Union Bank. I worked with Kathy and I haven't contacted her, but I think those two, you know, if we can get a little bit of a bidding war going or some common interest to say, well, Bank of New Hampshire is going to do it, why wouldn't you? That could help our cause too. So we're starting with one bank tomorrow. We'll see how that goes, but we just need to keep the momentum. Try to get them to the table.
I guess the reason I ask is I'm not sure if I know other towns have housing trusts. I think we've like toyed with the idea of a housing trust.
That's
locally.
what I was wondering.
Or-
Just talking.
Or just partnering with others, like the North Country Housing, I forget what it's called, like up in Littleton, I think they have a housing trust. Could they be helpful in a financial sense?
I have no idea. You should
Yeah.
look into that.
No,
I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about though, like. What do you, as soon as you said like collateral is lost, what's land is.
Yeah.
I think what you said. I don't know anything about mortgages.
Collateral, you know what the easy way to remember it is? What you have, I want. Yeah, that's it.
So if you are going to build a home
Yeah.
or you're gonna borrow a mortgage against your home, bank is not generally gonna loan you 100% of that home value.
Mhm.
Because if they had to sell it, they could lose money on it. So that's why you usually have to put money down towards a mortgage, or if you have land as collateral, especially land in Jackson, that means a lot because a per acre cost here, if it's on a mountain, you can buy an eighth of an acre for a couple $100,000. If it's a home building lot that's flat, an acre might be, you know, $50,000 or something like that without a view.
So if you put the
So-
land down as collateral, then the bank owns it.
If they don't own it, they own the interest in it. So if you were to default on the mortgage, they get it back and they have some value.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So I'm really intrigued with this idea about like a Jackson Habitat for Humanity.
I know it's awesome, really.
I mean,
Great
that
thought.
model, I would be happy to look into like how Habitat
There was a guy, well,
works.
We
one of your other neighbors is
Did somebody come in?
Anthony
Anthony Ruddy? He
Ruddy,
does a ton of work.
none
with
of it,
them,
but also
right?
there was somebody else at our bond hearing.
With Habitat.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
And John Little is,
Oh, John Little,
Hmm.
right, right.
Anthony Ruddy lives next door.
Yeah,
I know.
and there was
You know what,
another
I'd
gentleman.
be happy to reach out to him. He's one of my preschool
too,
parents.
so, yeah. I
And
mean,
even if, even if we're not doing all of it, if we're supplementing, some of the crew that the contractor's using, I mean, just anything would help.
we're just learning what their philosophy is and how they get their resources
their-
locally. Yeah,
How they do it.
yeah.
Because, I mean, that gets down to like, then looking out like, okay, so who is going to be able to have an opportunity to have one of these homes?
Mhm.
Like the application process
Right,
or
right.
all of that.
Yep.
And
And also when you're talking to them, what types of construct, I mean, obviously, I'm sure they're trying to drive their, the cost of construction down as much as possible. And so what are they doing to do that? Are they using modular construction or
Yep.
manufactured housing, et cetera?
Okay. I'll reach out to him and then the builder.
The camera's just pointing at the door now. Oh, no, back in the.
What happened?
It's mine.
Oh, oh,
Does it move to where there's noise?
yeah.
I think it looks something.
I'm not sure, but, okay, so that was a lot of good talk. There, our event coming up June 13th,
Yes.
it's already March, so I don't want to get lost in this, but our next meeting is, if I got it right, it's Tuesday, April 15th. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that everyone has their taxes filed. No, no. I'm
Yeah, you all
hoping
come
that
in
we can
happy.
come
to
to the table with what resources they think should be there. So if you, like we talked about the school board and somebody, maybe teachers from the school, just to say how this could impact them, lenders, legal, financial, any housing authorities, anybody that we can get to share our interest in this. And we'll do it like we did the senior expo, Emily, where we set up
Oh,
tables
Yep.
and maybe at the speaker, we can do whatever we want for audio visual, but then we have snacks and
Mhm.
pizza and bring
So-
people in.
I sent that itineraries. Are we kind of going based off that at all? Or are we?
I have not looked at that in a while, so I apologize, but I think
What
maybe
what was the question?
Not
what itinerary, because Jake had created that itinerary when we met last. Do we want to work off that and start with that? So I think that's a good jumping off
It's in line
point.
with.
Yeah,
what-
I think so.
I only asked, I'm not attached to it at all, but just to share with everybody else.
Yeah, so once I get the email addresses to you and we can send that around.
You mean like,
like-
is this like the schedule for the night?
Yeah,
What's
for the,
itinerary?
for the,
Go.
for the,
For that
the
event?
outreach event, yeah, we figured we'd have some sort of structure, but also have it sort of an open house type of thing.
Okay.
That way we can
I thought we
get
were going.
dialogue.
I heard itinerary. I was like,
Oh.
"Ooh, are you going?"
You got itinerary.
Agenda,
Oh,
sorry.
the agenda. There we go. Okay. Now that's.
That's-
This-
Always like, I like this committee.
Yeah, but an agenda? Oh, yeah.
Okay, another,
So is that a set date?
in our mind it is, but,
Yeah.
yeah,
Did we
oh
get-
no, we
did
got
we
the
have-
Whitney Center,
And what is the date?
Scott,
June-
June 13th,
13th, and we were gonna do 5 o'clock.
I'll be here.
I believe so, 5 or 5:30, whatever was on that, the itinerary, the agenda, whatever it's supposed to be.
Cancel your trip.
No
No.
way. We got a music festival to be at.
Oh,
So-
fun.
What time is it? 5 o'clock?
I believe we're doing it from 5 to 7.
Okay.
yeah, we're gonna
Uh,
open up with a song played
is
for
it?
everybody.
Which-
Sister Sledge
Yeah.
singing, "We Are Family."
That's,
Burning down the house.
yeah.
Yeah.
That is at
Um,
the new
we-
fire
we-
station and new housing.
Scott, that's going in the notes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We
that,
were gonna do it on June 14th, but Greg at the Whitney Center, Friends of the Whitney Center, said that weekends are not as good, especially for this type of event, and so we switched it to Friday. And Greg also offered to meet with us in some fashion to sort of help us get the word out and
Right.
promote the event. Unfortunately, I think we wouldn't qualify, or we were a little late to get into the brochure.
right,
But don't forget, by the time that meeting comes, we'll have had 2,000 brochures circulating around the town.
that's right. So,
Okay.
speaking of that,
Yes,
for-
they're printing as we speak. I
Sweet.
looked at the proofs, they look really good.
great,
Um, I was on my way to a doctor's appointment, so I drove in, looked at them, said they're good, please print them. Like,
I went by there tomorrow, I get any?
I don't know, I was gonna swing by early before the meeting, but
It's Minutemen, isn't it?
yeah, I'm expecting that they'll email me, call me, and they haven't done it yet. They've been really diligent about emailing me at every step. of
I'm
the
gonna
way.
stop on the way to the bank tomorrow. see
You
if-
Yeah,
got
that'd be
it.
great.
Yeah.
Oh, right, when you
That'd
go
be
to the
great.
meeting.
Hopefully they're
And
full.
then what we'll do probably is do some communication via email of how we're gonna disseminate those, because we want to get them out as soon as we
Yeah.
can, right? We don't want to wait till the next
2,500.
2,500. So our plan is to get these trifolds out to all of the inns and businesses in town, promoting our housing commission, so they know what our goals are, what we do, when our meetings are, website, anything like that. And then we'll use that also, and we can put some in the office, the library, et cetera.
Post office.
Post office for sure. And then
I don't know if
there-
the post office, would they allow that?
Yep, they have some on the table.
Okay, great.
You do PO boxes? Did we talk about that?
We didn't talk about PO boxes yet. I'm not sure if we want to do those. I have like pros and cons in my head about stuffing the PO boxes with those.
I see a lot of recycling. Yeah, but then
You find a lot of.
Yeah.
waste space.
Yeah, and that.
Then we can. reduce-
I will be willing
To
to pay
reuse
for the
it.
waste.
Exactly.
Get
But-
them back.
Well,
That's the fine shop.
Yeah.
Exactly. I hung out there for like 3 hours a couple Saturdays ago and just handed stuff out. So sometimes that can be very effective.
Actually, yeah.
Saturdays are
Sure.
really good. So
It's really, it's
Yeah.
so interesting
fun.
conversations.
I told everyone I was an ex-Walmart greeter and stood there for a while. So
I'll remind everybody of one thing. Scott, what was that thing we went to over in the library when we first presented the housing commission?
The volunteer,
Yeah.
Every person that came up to the table, every single one said, oh, is this affordable housing?
yeah,
That's when
So-
we decided to change the name.
community or family housing. But I think that, it's really important to get our message out, and this trifold has been through many iterations and it's really gonna be slick, so. If we can get those out and then figure out who's gonna take them where and pass them around.
Sounds great.
I'd be-
when will they be ready, Jake? Do you know?
Yeah, they will. They're
Possibly
printing now.
tomorrow.
Oh, you
Tomorrow,
said.
okay.
Yes. Yeah, swing by.
I'm gonna go by tomorrow.
Cool. What were you gonna say, Em?
Well, I was gonna say, I'd be willing to do a post office, stand outside. You
It's
know,
nice out.
Yeah,
I
I
did
know.
that with,
you wanna do that?
Yeah.
The only thing is, so I'm looking back from that date,
Excuse
it looks like the 24th of May, which is the Saturday of that. That would be the only Saturday I could do before.
Well, we
So
can,
we can talk about
we'll
that.
talk about that. Once we get the brochures in hand, we'll just shoot an email out to the whole committee that says, here's the places we want to take them. Are you willing to, dedicate a day to deliver and
Okay.
explain what they're there for?
Yeah.
So,
I blocked out that day.
That'd be.
I'm blocking off,
kind of
okay.
Yeah.
Either you or I have.
We'll
it might
see
be
how
have
that
to
goes.
deliver
Yep.
to people.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
or we could, pick them up here, commonplace.
Well, we did.
Yep,
Sounds like a
figure
good
out
job for
all
an
that.
alternate.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if you want.
I've done that for some other things, it's
So,
fascinating.
We have Emily checking with builders, Candy
Put
with
it right
Meg.
in the room. and-
I'll check on brochures, where you can
That's
check on
it.
brochures and we'll all
Gotta
get
look.
ideas for.
Yeah, and I'm gonna check with 2 other bankers and see if I can get on their agenda with Ken and Scott as well.
Yeah, I can't stress out.
Yeah.
The banks.
Gotta get that commitment.
I got a question.
Yes.
This is kind of. Anyway, could it, like a 401(c) or something, whatever we create,
Mm-hmm.
can that continue to own the land? And just sell the houses so that we maintain more control over who can buy the houses?
That's part of the, we don't know yet, that's
Oh,
part of the
okay.
legal structure, and that's a great
Or
question,
does it
because
take
does it,
away from the value
yeah,
and then the person can't get
and
it?
we also talked
A
about
mortgage
if
'cause
we
they don't
can't
own
get a
land?
mortgage
Yeah.
and they don't qualify for a mortgage for some reason, do we do a rent to own structure? Do we have, you can rent, you can buy, or you can do a rent to own, maybe we have 3 different options
Uh-huh.
available
Right.
based on their credit structure, because we don't know. So those are great questions about, maybe we do have to have this 501(c)(3) own it. Hey, is J Home a 501(c)(3)?
It was, right?
It's still active.
It's still
isn't it?
around.
Yeah, in fact, I think I just got something from New Hampshire saying that,
Does that?
a report of some sort is due.
It was sort of a committee like this that was not, it was outside of the town government, but it was trying to do the same thing, trying to find more affordable housing for our community, but it's not as active anymore. But if we already have a 501c3 formed, and that might be able to come into play, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it'd be a shortcut for sure.
Yep, but that
We
might,
give us more
yeah.
control over who owns,
Yeah.
who lives in the house.
Yeah, and that and just how do you structure these deals? That's gonna be huge on how you structure them, like I said, not just for the initial buyer, but for when they want to sell the property and what happens
Yeah.
next.
I mean, I did my house through Farmer's Home.
Yes,
I
you were
wasn't
saying,
allowed to rent it out.
Right.
There were rules.
right, it can never be a,
I did.
yeah,
Couldn't,
You know what, let me,
yeah.
Farmer's Home, that's
I-
something else that.
Well, I'm not sure it exists anymore. It was Ann Morrison who was who was running it at the time.
Oh,
There
okay.
you go. And there were rules.
Yeah.
And my mortgage was subsidized for a few years, and then when I made a certain amount of money, I had to pay back the subsidy
Yep.
and move to a conventional mortgage.
yeah. Some kind of
has
creative
been paid off.
financing is exactly what we need
I mean,
though.
could we subsidize these people
We
for a
don't.
while? when-
Yep, that's what we're, that's
Yeah.
where we are. We're so
And-
at the beginning still on how to
There's
figure all
just
this
so many
out.
options on how to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
show us the money.
I will look into other precedents. That's.
Okay, that would be great.
I mean, is there a
Scott.
Homestead Act?
Is he still there?
I'm here.
When we talk to the bank tomorrow, I think we should lay the options down. We're not adamant about retail mortgages. We might work with a builder. I think they're gonna help us visualize this. They help us.
Yeah.
So we'll toss that out there.
And Emily and I will paint.
Paint?
See?
Yeah, I'm really a pain
Awesome.
to do that for Habitat. It's just busy painting other
With
things.
meal.
I will help
Like
them
great-
budget.
On that virtual.
I am not a skilled person.
I'll cook breakfast.
There you go.
Just like to go.
All right,
All
what
right.
else have we got?
Pizza
I
for
don't
with
think-
Emily while we're painting.
Oh, and then as well. Yeah, that's all I've got.
We don't have.
Great meeting. everyone.
All right, yeah, I'm really so excited to have so many new members, good input, use our resources, all of it, but every question is a good question because we're at the beginning. So
Okay.
anything that you could think of that needs to be asked and answered,
Mhm.
write it down, send emails, bring it back to us.
You said, like, all those bills that woman was throwing out, like, I get those through
Mhm.
Kent Street Coalition.
Mhm.
Have you heard of that?
No, but,
It's a newsletter and I vote on them like every day.
mhm.
So.
So now that you're going to read them and go, this could apply to us. If it's one that you feel is pertinent to this, make sure you write the number down and,
Well, I mean, you could get the Kent Street Coalition newsletter
Kent Street
Extra
Coalition.
closing. It's great.
and,
It's really good.
and you can read the bills and
What's it called again, Ruthann?
vote every day. Kent Street Coalition. And they don't inundate you. You get one newsletter a week.
And they make it really easy to just oppose a bill or.
Yes, they explain it to you. They give you
Good.
links if you want to research it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, did you say Kent, K-E-N-T?
Kent.
Okay.
And I vote on all the bills.
You're doing better than some of us.
You're it.
Yeah, right.
Kent Street Coalition. I voted on this
Perfect.
bill today.
Awesome.
They're trying to take away
The vaccine is.
Need
vaccines for kids in New Hampshire.
Wow.
So
All right. Anything else?
Thanks, y'all.
I guess that's it.
All right. See you tomorrow. Motion
Great.
to
See you
adjourn
guys.
accepted. It is 7:14 and I'll second that motion. All in favor? Dinner.
dinner.
Thanks, Scott. I hope you keep feeling better and we'll see you tomorrow.
Feel better.
Thank you, and welcome to all our new members.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank